Facebook. Hey, if you're watching this on replay, put hashtag replay. Would love to know everybody that's tuning in, and we'll definitely say hi to everybody. Today, we're going to go through a fun Bible study. What's going on, everybody? All right. Question for you. Have you ever struggled with doing the things that you knew you should be doing, and yet you don't? You wait until the last minute. You end up losing time, and you always seem to miss your business goals just by a little bit. Well, what if I were to tell you that one of the biggest things holding you back from accepting and receiving the prosperity that God has for us is because of procrastination? Well, today we're going to dive into a Bible study to dive into this and just cut it by the roots itself so you can experience freedom, more prosperity in your life. So that sounds like something interesting to you. Definitely tune in, share this, like this, and everything, and let's go. My name is James Zhang, and if you don't know my story, we lost everything in our business, in our first business that we built, lost all of our money basically, and struggled with keeping money for a long time until we looked at what God said about money. And since then, have been able to tithe more than we used to make in 1 year. Since then, have been able to 10x our business income. Since then, have been able to achieve an incredible life of giving and generosity and everything. And what was the biggest thing is I started to look at what God really said about money. I want to dive into today a passage from the wealthiest person that's ever lived, a guy named Solomon. He wrote a couple books in the Bible. Today, we're going to look at Ecclesiastes. And I believe that if you take notes on what the successful people have done, then you too can get there as well too. So let's talk about what holds back and how do we overcome this procrastination thing. Because if you're looking to create wealth, looking to make more money, looking to overcome prosperity killers, then we absolutely need to understand how this works. All right. So let's walk through this together. We're going to go into Ecclesiastes chapter 11. And what's fascinating about Ecclesiastes is this is a time in Solomon's life where it's later in his years, and he's actually a little bit um, cynical. Like if you read through Ecclesiastes until you get to the end, it's a little bit sad, to be honest, because he's reflecting on what is the purpose of life. But in the midst of that, he still gives some really sage wisdom on how to create wealth and how to make money. Um, at the end of the book, though, what's great is he does come back and he basically says that God is the most important thing in life, and everything else, including wealth, if it is priority to God, is just wasted. But who here knows that it's okay to have wealth as long as God is number one, right? It says in Deuteronomy 8:18 that God gives us the power to create wealth. He wouldn't give us the power to create something that was bad. He just wants to make sure it's submitted to his kingdom and that we can use it to expand his kingdom mission. All right. So let's get into this. Ecclesiastes verse 11. I'm going to read out a New International Version. It says, ship your grain across the sea. After many days, you may receive a return. Invest in 7 ventures. Yes, 8. You don't know what disaster may come upon the land. The clouds are full of water. They pour rain on the earth. Whether a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where it falls, there will lie. Whoever watches the wind, here's the part I want to hone in on. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. Have you ever felt like that? You were supposed to be building your business, and yet you're watching the news all the time. You're supposed to be following up with your prospect. Instead, you're doom scrolling through Instagram and TikTok, right? If we watch the wind, or we're waiting for the perfect opportunity, we're waiting for when the winds are with our sails. Well, you're not going to plant and you miss out on the opportunities. All distractions are equal when it comes to creating wealth and creating more income. All right. Ecclesiastes 11:5. You don't know the path of the wind or how the body is formed in a mother's womb, so you can't understand the work of God, the maker of all things. And here's the conclusion. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle, for you don't know what will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will equally do well. Solomon has a lot to say about creating wealth. And if you read his story, I mean, this guy was a very successful entrepreneur, very successful consultant, very successful king. And he says a couple things here that I think are important as entrepreneurs to really dive into. Because I know for me, I fall victim to this a lot. Entrepreneurship is fascinating because you're not told what to do anymore. It's so crazy. I don't know if you've ever experienced this before, but I remember what was tough was firing my boss but hiring myself. It's like I could listen to what a boss told me to do. They could give me my work in a 9 to 5 and I'll work diligently for another boss. But when it came to working hard for myself and our family, that was really tough. It was like so easy to just fall away. It was so easy to get distracted. But it's important that we discipline ourselves to focus on the main things. In entrepreneurship, it's an infinite game, but we do get paid based on the value we bring to the marketplace. And we have to be very careful. What are the things that hold us back? Because if we don't get this, prosperity is not going to happen. All right. So let's dive into a couple of these things, right? Ecclesiastes 11:4. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. And I have to do a little bit of a assessment of myself because in business, it's very easy to feel like you're being very busy, but there's a difference of productivity and activity. Activity does not necessarily equal productivity. What is productivity? In business, especially in sales, it's very simple. If what you're doing does not help you create more sales, then it's not productive. If it doesn't increase your income, it's not productive. So, for sake of example, let's say I'm creating content. I have to be very careful here. I know that I want to create content that can attract my ideal client. So I'm making my posts on Facebook. I'm making my Instagram reels, right? That's what I was doing right before I was doing this Bible study. I'm thinking about what to do. And this happens a lot where I will go onto Instagram and I'll start getting lost because Instagram and these social media apps, they get paid by getting your attention. And aren't they good at getting your attention? The algorithms know exactly what you like. I'm starting to scroll and watch, scroll and stay, scroll. And as Solomon says, I'm watching the wind. I'm like, that's interesting. And all of a sudden, I get emotionally involved. All of a sudden, my scroll turns into minutes, hours, and you can lose days on this. And what does it do? When we watch the wind, when we watch distractions, it prevents us from doing the main thing. It prevents us from planting, as it says in Ecclesiastes 11:4. So here's a question we have to ask ourselves. How much planting have we done today? Not yesterday, not last week, not last month, today. Because the best guess on what your results are going to be tomorrow is going to be what you did today. We can't change yesterday. We can't change tomorrow, but we can change right now. So, really check yourself right now. How much income producing activity have you done today? So, for me, for example, I've made two Instagram reels that are attracting my ideal clients. So, it's a prospecting thing. I have had a business conversation with a prospect about my product already. I started the morning with a coaching call with 50 leaders that was focused on helping them take income producing activity. So, what are the things that we're doing where we're actually planting, right? Also, what are the things that we're doing that are distractions? The news is a distraction to me. I have to be very careful. There's a lot of things that really can capture your attention. I have to maybe schedule that into another time. I have to schedule that. It's okay to watch the news if you want to. It's okay to find things that are hobbies, but keep the major thing first and the minor thing after. We have to be very, very mindful, right? Procrastination is a killer for us. Solomon keeps on going in Ecclesiastes chapter 11, and it gives us some more truth. And this is where I fall victim to as well. It says, you don't know the path of the wind or how the body's formed, so you can't understand the work of God, the maker of all things. Who here's ever had a plan of attack for your business and your plan A didn't work, right? In our line of business, we help a lot of people get promoted in their business. So we're structuring plans, and week by week, we're running these plans. After this live, I'm going to spend dedicated time mapping out plans for our sales team. So, how many times is it that planning actually works? I can pretty much tell you that pretty much 100% of the time, planning doesn't work. And we have to be very mindful. What causes us to procrastinate is we overcompensate our own genius. We think that just because we made one plan, that that's what's going to work. We basically try to play God. That's what Solomon's saying. But Solomon says in Ecclesiastes 11, you don't know how wind works. You don't know how a baby's formed. Basically, he's saying, how do you know the process of how God creates things, of how he brings the dreams that he puts in our heart into fruition? It's great to have a vision board. It's amazing to have God-sized goals. I talk about that all the time. But what we don't know is how it comes about. That's the faith journey. Hey, think about it this way. As much as we love it, wouldn't we all love to know the perfect plan to achieve the things that God's called us to do in our life? But the flip side is this: that would require no faith, no relationship. God gives us these goals, almost it's like he dangles them in front of us to inspire us to become more like him, to really seek him. And, and our goal is to meander our way and kind of fall our way and wander our way. And really, it's a weird process of goal achieving, but we don't know exactly what the path is. We do know the promises are true because God's promises are yes and amen, but we don't know the path. But that's okay because that's how faith works. That's what God wants us to do. He wants us in that journey to meet him, to co-partner with him, to walk with him, and to trust him with all of that. So control the controllables, but let God decide how things are going to happen. If that's the case and you don't know the path and the strategy on how the goals are going to get done, well, then what do you do? Well, in Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 6, it gives us a solution. It says, sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle, for you don't know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will equally do well. Solomon says, have backup plans. Solomon says, do everything you can because you don't know which one's going to land. And just from personal experience, I don't know if you would resonate with me on this or not, but I look back to any amazing achievement or goal that we've accomplished in our business, in our life. I've looked at the big things that have produced prosperity and income in our life. And what I can say is during those seasons, it's felt like I tried everything in my own power. And then I got to the end of my own plans and I surrendered it all to God. And I said, I don't know how it's going to work, but I know you know how it's going to work. And at the very last moment, I think about Abraham and Isaac. When you're ready to sacrifice it all and surrender all to God, he comes through with the ram. He comes through with the sacrifice. He comes through with the miracle. Have you noticed that in your life as well too? It's like when you're done with what you can do, God can step in and do what he does. And the miracle happens every single time. And does it have to be that way? I think about this because I've been through that many times now. And I'm like, God, I know how this is going to work. I know I'm going to get to a place where I feel like I'm absolutely desperate and the dream is dead and I'm ready to give up. And I know that you're going to come through every single time because your promises are true. Does it have to? Couldn't you just give it to me in the beginning? Do I have to go through all this? And you know what I realize is you don't fight the game, you just play the game. God wants us to learn in relationship how to really come to Him, how to really just seek Him in all things, how He works. And ultimately, God, for the goals that we have, He wants to get the glory. So He wants to be as unpredictable as possible. He can't be put in a box. So if we understand this, let's just skip over the disappointment side. Let's just skip over that part where we feel like we just have to try to guess how God works. Don't try to guess how God works. It is a pointless battle. It's like what Solomon said when we just watch the clouds and we're kind of just trying to predict how God's going to happen. Like, that's not how it works. That's what leads into procrastination. The better thing to do is to trust God at what He's promised you and then be diligent with what He's put in your hand. Be expectant that the miracle is going to come and the breakthrough is going to come. And just know it's not a matter of if it happens, a matter of when. And if we understand that there's things that we have in our control, and then there's things that God has in His control, and we have this healthy partnership and relationship with Him, just watch when that breakthrough happens. Just watch when that prosperity actually starts to come. Everything changed for me when I started to realize that God's got His process of things, and I just have to go with it. And if you follow that journey, just watch how fun life starts to become. All right. So, procrastination, big prosperity killer. In short, basically, procrastination is us trying to play God, us trying to guess how things are going to work, us getting distracted, taking our time. God doesn't want that because He cares more about our character than He does about our achievement. He wants diligence, He wants excellence, He wants your dependency on Him. He wants to see you grow and be discipled so we can become more like His Son Jesus. And at the end of that, God then rewards us, which is cool. But the biggest reward is not even in the prosperity that comes. The biggest reward you'll find is in the character that you developed in the pursuit of that prosperity. So I wonder what you think about this. Would you agree with me? If so, be sure to share this, subscribe. We're going through a 5-part series on prosperity killers. And let me end this with some prayer. Dear Father, just thank you so much for your word. It's always true. I love your word because it just confronts us in the face. And at least for me, like, I need to look at the brutal reality. And I thank you that the more that we look to you, the more we become like you and the more successful we become as well too. We thank you that prosperity is not a bad word, it's a good word. And we thank you that you're bringing and you're breaking apart anything that's holding us back from the next level of breakthrough. And we thank you that we submit this all to you so we can glorify you and your kingdom. And we thank you that this word settles deep and it bears much fruit. In Jesus' name.